Speaking of U2, or John picking up U2, it's time for the artist spotlight.
Yeah, so be prepared, folks. Getting me talking about U2, that's a dangerous thing. Yeah, no, I'm gonna say my age. I'm 47 years old. I got into U2 when I was 13 years old, so that was like a year before the Joshua Tree came out. I had a best friend at the time. His name was Chris Hall. I'm going to send him a copy of this podcast to remember these things. But I went over to his house. We used to always play street hockey outside. And then I went to his house, and I think his parents were both into U2 as well. But he played a copy of Pride in the Name of Love from Unforgettable Fire at the time. I was like, oh, I've heard that song on the radio. I really love that song. So then started listening to them more. I did the whole thing where trying to record Pride on the radio with my cassette tape, and just kind of started getting into their back catalog. When then all of a sudden the Joshua Tree came out when I was in grade 8, and then that's when I kind of just became this mega fan. I totally love Joshua Tree. Back where I used to grow up in Bowmanville, close to Oshawa, Ontario, the cool thing was to wear the jean jackets with the patches on the back.
Nice.
Most people had stuff like Judas Priest or heavy metal bands.
Yeah.
And I played on a Canadian hockey team at the time, and everybody was all metalheads. But then I wanted to fit in, but I really love U2. So then I got a visual here for you. I got a jean jacket, and then I went to a head shop in Toronto and got the Joshua Tree on my. There we go.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful, man.
That's a nice bleached jean jacket too.
Bleached jean jacket.
Oh, that's got like 80s written all over it.
Oh, total 80s. I had like red written over, but it says U2, the Joshua Tree. I found it and I was so excited. I didn't know how to.
That's part of a Halloween costume now.
Yeah.
Halloween costume. I remember not knowing how to sew it or asking my mom, but at the time my mom was like, "No, I don't want to put a patch on your jean jacket." But I begged her. I think I offered to mow the lawn 100 times. Anyway, she sewed that on there. So yeah, I just been in. I first saw U2 when the Joshua Tree tour. They came to Toronto at the CNA Grandstand, and I remember having to beg my parents to get me tickets for that. And finally allowed me to go to see them in the Joshua Tree. So then every single tour since then, I've seen them multiple times on each tour. So yeah, just been a big, huge fan.
How many times?
I think I keep trying to count it. I think I'm into like the mid-20s now, about 25 times that I've seen them.
Amazing.
That's
yeah,
impressive.
so like the last tour when they went in the Joshua...
Dude, I haven't even been to 25 concerts in my life, let alone fucking U2.
Yeah.
Knowing what Bono smells like each year.
Yeah, well, it's like all those tours, Joshua Tree, and then some other ones. Every time I went, I was always way in the back, but it was like in 2001, they had the Elevation tour, and then I finally they started selling general admission tickets. So I did the whole thing where I waited in line for 24 hours plus and then was on the front row. So almost every tour they've done that. They've had general admission tickets, so I just buy general admission and then I do the stupid thing of waiting in line for a million hours and go to the front row and being 6'6", piss off the people behind me. So the U2 collection in terms of vinyl, they've released 16 studio albums, so I have all those albums on vinyl. As one of the first things I built up was just all their major album releases. And I tend to always listen to my favorite always tends to be their latest albums, because whenever a new album comes out, I pity if you're a partner of mine, because I will put that shit on replay like over and over and over and over and over again. So by the time U2 usually releases an album like every 4 years, by the time a new album comes, I'm like, yeah, let's hear the new album. So I tend to overplay the older ones, and their latest releases always tend to be my favorite. So yeah, probably that puts me around being a U2 fan for about 35 years now, which makes me feel extremely old. But one thing I noticed too, what's that?
Vintage.
Yeah, after 5 years, you're vintage.
I'm gonna have to remember that expression a lot, because yeah, vintage. I like that. Bono just celebrated his 60th birthday. So I think that was this past weekend. It was 60th birthday, and then lots of us U2 fans, we posted all these toasts on social media and stuff like that, and I think there was thousands of toasts for them. But it was kind of neat. During the quarantine, he did some interview with one of the radio stations in Ireland, and he was talking about during this quarantine time, he's been making tons of lists. And he made a list of 60 songs that saved my life. So there are 60 songs that over his lifetime, they were the most important songs to him. And he released this on this radio station. But since then, Apple Music and Spotify have put that list on their website. So it was funny going over the list of all his 60 favorite songs. I'd say like 80% of them are like my favorite songs over my lifetime. So that was really cool. He's got like everyone from, Elton John to Elvis Presley to Johnny Cash, Kraftwerk, but just an eclectic mix to Public Enemy to more recent artists like Billie Eilish and Kanye West. But what's kind of really cool is that every song that he put on this list, he wrote a letter to the artist just describing the scenario about what the song meant to him when he first heard it and why it meant so much to them. So I think that's one of the things I love about U2. Is kind of like their lyrics. If you read these letters to all these artists, they're kind of like pretty deep and heavy. You almost kind of think, well, that's a little too much, but they're really profound, and he thinks a lot about what he writes. So that's probably 50% or even more of the reason why I liked U2 over the years was their lyrics. I really love getting into the lyrics and stuff like that. And I think Bono I think he's a poet, just up there with Lennon, Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, and I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me. So I've always just been really into their lyrics and stuff like that. The same reason I'm into Rush. I think Neil Peart is like a great lyricist. Some of his songs are just amazing. So yeah, he wrote a letter to all these artists, and it's pretty interesting to read. I just want to pick one of them. This was to one of the songs he picked of his top 60 songs was from REM, the song called Night Swimming. I don't know if any of you guys know that song.
Yep.
I know REM.
Yeah, REM. So the Night Swimming. So I don't know if we're going to use this, but I'll just read a portion of one of the letters he wrote to REM for Night Swimming. Dear Bill, Peter, Mike, and Michael, in the best songs, it's not just the band that dives in. The listener gets to dive in with you. So I have swam alongside the members of REM in their nakedness for quite some time now. I hold this song in such high regard because I rarely felt the innocence it suggests with such intensity and when listening to it. Our Experience plus Innocence tour, I used to say that at the far end of experience with some wisdom and good company, it might just be possible to recover innocence. So yeah, all of their albums, their most recent albums, was the one song was Songs of Innocence. The other one was called Songs of Experience. There's always kind of been like big underlying themes and heavy lyrics, so I've always been kind of into that. This one is called Songs of Experience. Which one? I always
That's
kind
Songs of Innocence.
Innocence.
Every iPhone user knows that album.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was a free one.
Yeah, everyone loved that, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, everyone loved that one.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Dude.
didn't
How true
tell
is
us the
it?
story about
You
how
can't get
Bono had
around
to
that being a YouTube
apologize
fan.
for how hard he worked on that.
Yeah. I heard an amazing interview by Bono actually talking about that. He was like, our intention was to kind of hey, here's a free album and we'll leave that on the doorstep for you. And if you like it, you can go outside and take it. But what ended up happening is we went into your flat, we walked into your kitchen, we opened up your refrigerator and we put it right beside the milk. It was just kind of a little too
much.
It's like your neighbor coming over and letting themselves in and leaving something on the kitchen counter going, I'd love for you to try this. And
Yeah.
you understand how positive the intent is, but what the fuck?
Yeah.
Get
For
out
sure.
of my house.
So yeah, I mean the intent was positive on there. I was as a YouTube fan, I was like, it's wicked, I can't wait this, and I was texting everyone about, but yeah, it was a little too much, but yeah, this album here, the cover here, this was shot by a photographer named Gunn Lushford, and it's just a really cool album. This is a song, the guy on the bottom there is the drummer, Larry Mullen Jr., and that's his 18-year-old son. And I'm just going to read one more quote. Bono talking about this album cover. He said, "We've always been about community in U2, about family and friends. Songs of Experience is the most intimate album we've ever made. With this record, we're looking for the raw, naked, and personal. To strip everything back, holding on to your innocence is a lot harder than holding on to someone else's." So that was their other album, their most recent album. So that's the one I'm most into lately. I've had it on repeat, and hopefully in another 2 years we'll have one more album. But the other album was, and again, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. I always kind of mix up the two.
That's
This
the
one,
experience
Songs
one.
of Experience,
Yeah.
yes.
Think of it as two people having an experience together, but the innocence of a man and his son. There you go. You'll never forget again. You're welcome.
There you go.
Yeah.
This one was there's a really famous photographer called Anton Corbijn. He took took this shot, and this actually features Bono's son Eli, and the Edge, the guitarist, his daughter Cyan, if I'm pronouncing that quick. So yeah, he's on the album cover, which makes a perfect segue into one album that I'm sure you guys are sick of me talking about, which is another Irish band called Inhaler. So that album cover is Bono's son Eli, and he just started a new band, and it's Inhaler was picking up like crazy, and I was supposed to see them in Toronto a few weeks ago, but unfortunately this COVID is kind of taking that away. So anyways, those are the two most recent albums there. So anyways, yeah, those two album covers, they kind of really harken back to like their early albums that I'm interested in. Like I said, I have almost all their major record releases. This is the album U2 War. Kind of has like the same sort of imagery of it.
Nice, John. I've got that one as well, actually.
You got that one?
Yeah.
Cool, man. It's yeah, that kind of theme of like Boy, one of my favorite Bono lyrics of all time. He talks about time won't leave me as I am, but time won't take the boy out of this man. So this was one of the earlier albums, but their first album release was kind of funny. We were talking earlier about the US version of this album. The one they released had almost the exact same kind of cover as this one. It's a picture of a boy, but when they released it in the US, they were afraid that it might hearken to like pedophilia. So they, at the last second, they made them change the album cover to this like random
So
picture
that's
of
the one that I have, and I now went on my Discogs, typed in U2, and I don't have any of my U2 logged in Discogs. So like I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
I need to log on my U2. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. Bono was super pissed off that they made them change to this, like they just took an image and they stretched it in like Mac Paint or something like that. And anyway, so I don't have the actual UK version of it with the actual boy on the cover, but that's one of their albums there.
I like
So
that artwork though. Sorry. Yeah, I like that artwork though just as much, eh?
Yeah, it's okay. I that's on my list of things to buy of their main albums, is one of the original UK versions of the boy on it. So anyways, yeah, they've over the years they've had quite a few kind of cool record store day releases. The next record store day that comes out, whenever that may be, I guess they're stretching that over 3 different days. On the list, U2's releasing 11 O'Clock TikTok, the 40th anniversary edition. And so when we finally have that, all 4 of us are going to be going crazy, and that will be on my list of albums that hopefully I'll make sure I get.
Looking forward.
So this one here, Dan helped me get this one. We were in Sunrise Records in Canada, and I didn't even know it was there, but he pointed it out right by the checkout that this was one of the latest record store day releases. It's U2 3. So it's kind of like the original version of this album was released in 1979, but they made 17,000 copies of it, and I have number 7,089. So that's a really cool one from Record Store Day. The other one, I think the last time we got together, I played this one. This is the Europa EP.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
I really like this one.
that's great. Yeah.
It's got the opening of their last Innocence and Experience tour. Charlie Chaplin comes on and he does that speech called The Great Dictator. I don't know if you remember that one, but like, holy shit, that's relevant today. And so yeah, this has a whole bunch of really good tracks on it. And then also from Record Store Day, I believe this one came in during the Batman Forever soundtrack release. This one's
Oh,
Hold
wow.
Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. So they made 7,000 copies of this one, and some really good remixes of that song on there. The artwork, the liner things are really cool. These kind of like cartoons that they drew. And another record store day. This is a picture disc version of The Lights of Home from that song's experience. Again, Bono's son on the cover. So yeah, this one has the song Lights of Home, which is one of my favorite songs of all time.
What's the artwork on that disc there? Is it like it's their silhouettes, but in the silhouettes, what is that?
Yeah, at the beginning of that tour, they kind of played this video of Charlie Chaplin's the Dictator, but they also played this little clip from what's his name? He's the scientist who recently passed away, who was always in a wheelchair.
Stephen
Hawkins, yeah. They would play this little thing of this video with him talking, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that video silhouette that silhouette is from that.
Yeah, it looks like constellations or something.
It's like constellations
Yeah, I
and
thought it was
stuff like that.
constellations at
Yep.
first, and then I thought it was like a spy cam or like a satellite camera of a city at nighttime. Made, I don't know. Yeah,
I could be wrong on
looks
that.
cool.
And
Looks
the
cool.
back of it has another silhouette there. And then finally from the record store day, this one's a cool album. It's called the Blackout album, and this one was actually pressed by Third Man Records. Almost everyone knows that Jack Black.
Jack White.
Jack Black or Jack White? I have dyslexia, by the way.
Yeah.
Jack White.
I did not
Third
know
Man.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jack White from Third Man Records in Detroit pressed this album. So there is
Road
19
trip.
Yeah, so there's a plug.
Yeah.
When we finally can get going and stuff, we're going to take a road trip to Third Man Records in Detroit, and we'll hopefully vlog that and take pictures of that and stuff. But this particular version, there was 19,250 copies of it pressed there, but mine just has like a black album with a black label, but there was 750 pressed there that have like this white kind of like their starburst around the label. And I wish I had one of those, so that's on my list. Yeah, so for Record Store Day, there's 4 others from Record Store Day that I don't have. I'll keep searching on Discogs, and eventually I'll get those. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about 3 U2.com releases. So yeah, since like the early 2000s, I've been a member of U2.com, and they've come out with all these gifts every time you subscribe. And sometimes they have vinyl version of them. So this album here is called Artificial Horizon. That's a 4 LP set. They're all deep purple. I just realized I thought they were black, but they're actually all deep purple. So I think I played this last time we got together. There's 13 tracks. They're all remixed by some of the most popular DJs in the world. I think the one song Vertigo is remixed by Trent Reznor. There's other songs like Magnificent and I'll Go Crazy. That's one of my top 3 favorite albums of all time. And then Dan, you'll be slightly familiar with this one. This one's called Another Time, Another Place. I got 2 copies of these because I think when they were going on tour, I needed 2 sets of tickets. So I got my girlfriend to sign up twice. So we got 2 copies of these. So I gave one to Dan. This is the 1980 performance of the Marquee Club in London. So it's really cool. There's 10 live tracks on here. And the very first day I got my Fluence RT80, one of the very first records I put on was this one, and that was the night I think I stayed up till like 4 in the morning. That kind of feeling that you're putting on this album and the grooves and the vibration. It's replaying sound from that night, from 1980. So it's a really cool album. The last track is 6 minutes of Bono just recapping his memories of this concert back in 1980. So that one's really cool. And then my last U2.com vinyl that I have is called 3D Dance Remixes. So they reissued this in 2080. It was for the 30th anniversary of the U2 album Rattle and Hum. So it's got all these remixes, again, kind of DJs doing these remixes of songs from like When Love Comes to Town with B.B. King. And there's a remix of the song called Desire. It's an awesome song. And those are my U2.com vinyl issues. So yeah, I'm slowly building up my collection, and I like it. Maybe that's for a different podcast another time, but I also have like concert footage, every single concert, these special edition books and CDs from them, but we'll save that for another show.